Y'all, so God had to check me. Before I became a Christian, I was into destroying people. Like, I would get in arguments with people, and I knew how to go for the jugular type deal. And I was going for the jugular because it was fun for me. And it wasn't in a like, I'm just going to start roasting everybody around. It was like, usually they would say something to me first, and then we would get in these arguments. And so I noticed I was kind of doing that with the manosphere people. And God had to check me because as a Christian, we don't treat them in the way that they are treating us. Although they will find every way to get in your mind and start trying to wreck you. And that's what kind of made me get back into it, because I was just like, well, you deserve to be checked, and I'm going to be the one that checks you. And it lasted for a couple days, and I was like, now I'm not feeling right. My countenance is worn and that kind of thing. And so I was like, don't do that. But it made me start thinking of certain things, of how black people especially, they are constantly roasting each other. And so I thought I gave it a name. I was going to call it roasting culture, but apparently it's already a thing. So I looked it up on YouTube, and there's YouTube videos on roasting culture. And I'm laughing because I'm like, it was so funny, but it like destroyed me saying the things I was saying to people. And I can't say that they weren't untrue, some of the things, but I would say that they were unnecessary. And I think a lot of people need to be taught rather than condemned. So we'll put it that way. Interesting thing, though, I was watching a video tonight, and on the video, there was some comments on there that were leaning to more spiritual comments. And so I'm like, interesting that these comments would pop up, Maybe people are tired at this point and they want something other than what they're teaching in the manosphere, because it's not working. Like, it gives you a bit of confidence or pride for some time, but then I can tell you confidently that what they teach in there is not going to lead to a decent relationship with a woman. It's not going to. If you're prideful, whether you're a woman or a man, what you're going to get is a prideful woman or man. A humble person is not going to stay with someone that's prideful. So, and that's what you want. You want a humble person because they're going to make your life the easiest. So this guy, what's his name? Mediocre something, I'm sorry. Mediocre something in reviews. He's part of the manosphere, and I feel like he's searching. But he has some truths and he has some untruths, and I think he's tired. Like, I feel like he's tired, and he knows that something needs to change, but he's also making money off of what he's doing, and so maybe he's not quite ready yet. But he had Lauren London on his video, and she was talking about the ego and how she doesn't want to be a person that tries to hold on to someone. Like, you need to let people go type deal. I think her boyfriend had died, or her husband or something. Nipsey Hussle, I think his name was. So it was intriguing that he put this on his video concerning almost like an existentialist or new age commentary concerning letting people go. I personally believe that in death you have to let people go. But if you have a husband or a wife, it's not going to be natural for you to just be like, okay, bye. Like, that's no. You have already formed a bond with them, because God says the two become one. So what happens when you tear apart one thing, it's probably going to be very uncomfortable for you. So yeah, no, it's normal to have bonds with people. That is absolutely normal. So anyway, it was comforting because it was like there was actually some spiritual conversation going on, though, in general. And I'm like, okay, maybe we're moving somewhere here, because at some point all the fluff is going to begin to fall away. Like that Peter Gabriel song where it's called In Your Eyes. I swear that song's about Christ. It sounds like he's talking about the fire in the eyes and all this stuff. It sounds like a song about Christ. But he's talking about how all the illusions disappear, how the noise goes. And the noise in the Bible represents the sin. Like, okay, God says a little bit of yeast leavens the whole loaf. So when we're in sin, we get these candida infections in our Bible, which are literally called, or in our body, which are literally called yeast infections. And through your sickness, through these yeast or candida infections, like literally they, like, demons have the ability to attach, and I don't know if it's the organisms, like the yeast itself, that is like transmuting information, dark information, because it's a sickness. But when you get these infections, it's like all this noise in your ear and in your body, and when you're with God and your body is clear and you're clean, then that noise disappears. So I feel like we're at the point where there's been all this noise. Oh my God, it breaks my heart. There's been all this noise in the manosphere and all this other stuff on the internet. And the noise is coming from the sickness in people's minds, the sickness in people's bodies. But at some point, God comes and he's like, all right, this has got to stop. And so I feel like that might be what's happening right now with the manosphere, where he's like, this has got to stop. I'm putting my people in here to straighten out this. It's a spiritual issue above anything else. So there were people actually speaking on the manosphere on his video today, and they were trying to bring the light of God, and it was such a blessing. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm home now. Like I can speak about what I'm supposed to be speaking about, which is really God and not bashing people. It just felt like such a blessing. Like I felt relieved, I feel like the whole roasting culture is all this noise in people's bodies, the yeast, the candida, the disease speaking, and because they don't know how to release those things, which will really be through fasting and your obedience to God, prayer, even listening to some music, taking herbs to heal those kinds of things, to heal your mind, changing your thought processes into the Word of God, all those things will heal it. What we do is we come down on other people. We bash them, we destroy them, and we think it's funny, like it's a part of Black culture to do these things. And it really is destroying Black people, I thought it was funny for a couple of days, and now I'm just like, what? This isn't funny anymore. It's just, this cannot open the door for people to want to change, to want to repent, to want to do better in their lives. It's going to keep them at a low spot. One of the comments on the videos was some guy has said that these women will die alone. How do you know if somebody's going to die alone? Like, you're not God. God has a plan for everybody's life. She might decide to turn her life over to God tomorrow, and he's like, hey, here's a husband 2 weeks later. God can do those things. They say things like, I'm trying to think specifically what this one guy said. It was not very nice. And I was just confused because I'm like, this isn't very nice, but then you want women to worship you. And that's confusing, You can't sit around and bash people, bash women, and expect them to bow to you. Like, no, Abraham and Sarah had a certain relationship where Sarah was calling Abraham Lord. And a lot of men in the Black Hebrew Israelite community want women to do this, but when you speak to them, it's like, you're not worth me calling you Lord. You're not worth me calling you boyfriend, husband. I don't even want to be in your presence type deal. But the reason why I believe she did this is because Abraham was so close to God, and people need to understand who God is. He isn't just some magical being in the sky that's just yelling at people and that kind of thing. Like, no, he said, don't kill, don't steal, don't destroy, love your neighbor as yourself type deal. And so if Abraham's close to God, what do you think he was doing? He's not going to be bashing his woman. He's going to be treating her with love, kindness, and respect, because that's what God does. So, and it also says in the New Testament, men are the head, and the men are supposed to love their women like Christ loved the church. But a lot of these men, they just want to be domineering, and I don't know why. I'm sure there's a purpose to it. I'm sure it comes from some kind of wound. I mean, I'm thinking about my brother and all the issues that he had, and it led him to becoming somewhat of a narcissist, and a highly manipulative individual. And he wanted to be treated like a king, even though he was being very abusive to all the women around him. It's a demonic spirit. So, anyway, I'm getting off topic. Maybe I'm going as the spirit leads. I don't know. But I really feel as though this whole roasting culture is part of what's destroying the Black community. I mean, I guess I just don't see other groups sitting around just destroying one another. Like, the other day I was at this cafe outside of New Orleans, and there's a bunch of Asian people, and I was listening to how they were talking to one another, and they were just so respectful towards one another and just like asking questions about each other's lives. And I was like, wow, this feels weird, but it's probably actually what's normal in God's eyes, to just be having conversations and showing love towards one another. It's just really intriguing. And I don't think they were doing it necessarily because they were Asian. I think they were actually Christians, and so that's probably why they were doing it. But Yeah, I'm just praying for the whole roasting culture to stop, because I think when we can get in the mindset of really loving one another, then we can actually, our minds won't be defiled and our ears will open and our eyes will see, where we won't have to go through these toxic cycles, and then we can have decent relationships. So you guys be blessed and have a good one. Bye.